Good morning. Back. Thursday morning again. Feels like Monday morning.
I wonder why.
Do not adjust your screens again. There is no Mark and no Steve Nudelberg again. And Lori Nudelberg is now sitting in the seat. We have officially changed her name legally. It will be a hyphenated,
We're just waiting on the birth certificate.
Exactly.
Listen, there might have been an internal vote or discussion. We might be throwing you on the graphic. I don't know that I even have the authority to make that decision.
Come on, Jake. I need you in my corner.
Listen, I don't.
It's happening. It's happening. I will
admit. I am willing to be bribed. I do accept bribes, and I will be swayed. But happy Thursday to you both. Good to be back.
Good to be here.
It's
Thursday. We're over halfway through the week.
I know. I was going to say, how's your week going? But we've had the update every day. So how was yesterday, I guess?
Yesterday, it was a little interesting. Had to have some tough conversations with some people. But I ended my day with you in a kick-ass workout. So what could be better than that?
It's amazing. All my clients are back in it. Dad got back into his workout routine today. So I got to kick his ass. It's always fun to go kick your father's ass at 5 a.m. I will say it is gives you an extra reason to get up in the morning.
That's why I work out with you at night, because I figured by that time you've gotten all your kicking ass out of you.
This is true. I am a little bit more lenient with you by the end of the day. I've dealt with enough people where it's kind of like
very strategic. Okay.
We are already in August. We are already through 10 days of August. Insane. The summer is flying by before we know it. Or do kids go back? When do kids go back to school? That's next week?
Palm Beach went back today.
They went back today. So they go back for 2 days, and then is that like their entry period? Interesting.
It's like a little ramp up, like a little
ramp up. Yeah, I don't know. Those would be like the days I would skip.
Why would you send them back on a Thursday?
Right.
I mean, it's just crazy. Wait till Monday.
Interesting. But Ed Dykes is here. Good morning, Mr. Dykes. I will see you tomorrow, and everybody will see you tomorrow. He just celebrated a birthday, 61, if I'm not mistaken. He will be. It's like, listen, 61 is now like the new 41. The way he works out. So I'll keep selling it, right? But he will be in the hot seat tomorrow. Mark will be back. Dad will be back. Correct, Shay? I believe. So they will be back to handle the interview. But we have some great content.
All hands on deck tomorrow.
All hands on deck. Some big news out of Florida that we'll get to. But let's wake up, Shay. I think Lori is doing some recruiting outside of the huddle to get people to push her to the front. Hello, John Ray. Thank you for checking in again. One of these days, you're going to have to say something nice about me, probably. Only kidding. But
there is a quick show edit. There was a no-hitter in baseball thrown last night.
There was a no-hitter in baseball. That was by the Phillies?
Yes.
I'm not. Shay, are you able to talk from behind the screen?
I am now.
This. You feel like the Wizard of Oz right now. You do. This feels like
now I am officially like the guy from PTI. Now
that is unreal, right? Which he goes on to have his own show.
When we get to talking about the 5 people you need behind you, John Ray is one of the people that falls into one of those categories. So we're definitely going to mention that. So appreciate it.
It's amazing. Well, before we get to that, want to talk about kind of I mean, a cool topic, I would say, if you won. Yesterday, the lottery happened, or yesterday the lottery was announced that somebody won $1.58 billion was won by somebody in Florida at a Publix in Neptune Beach in Jacksonville. And I want to have a quick conversation with you, Lori. One, what would you first do if you won the lottery? If you were handed $750 million, what are the first three things you would buy? What is important that you don't want to do in your life anymore? Give me your thoughts.
You know, and I've thought about this quite a bit. Mike and I talk about it a lot.
Winning the lottery?
There's not, and what we would do. There's not much I would really change.
Okay.
I could buy a bigger house now if I wanted to, but I don't care to, right? I love my home. I would probably remodel a little bit, which I'm already starting to do. But I don't, there's not that much. I would help my kids if I could, maybe a little bit, but I don't know. There's really nothing I feel like I need in my life. I would save for retirement. Right. I wouldn't quit my job because I love what I do.
Well, so, you're really fun. Your imagination's really out there.
Let me travel a little bit more, maybe.
50 million, and you're not changing a single thing. God bless you.
I mean, little things. I would travel a little more. I wouldn't change my car. I love my car. There's just things that I don't feel like. It would be experiences that I would want more than things.
You're an experienced person over goods or stuff like that. I can tell you immediately I'm probably buying a house on the beach. Immediately I will do that. Will be one. Number two, I'm going to buy a chef. I don't want to cook. I don't want to that's one chore. And then number three, I'm buying a driver. If I never have to deal with South Florida traffic or I never have to cook a meal again, I think my entire life would be better.
Please don't tell me you would stop training, because I was going to say I would increase my training days.
I was gonna say, like Jonathan Aaron says, is that why Mark isn't on today? If anybody in my family won it, I'm not showing up to work tomorrow. I'm just going to be honest. I'm telling everybody it's a true fact. And all the people that I would keep my job, I'm taking a week off to decompress and figure out how to deal with all my money. So I'm not one of those. But I think you're kind of in the rare saying that you wouldn't change much, because kind of an alarming stat is that 70% of lottery winners go broke. And there's an array of reasons because of that. They either spend so much. Yes, Jamie Tribble, you're hired immediately. But it's amazing that because of the family members, and I think you see it a lot in sports with athletes coming into a bunch of money, the people around them feel that they are entitled to that money. And I can tell you, if Mark ever won it, I would feel entitled to it. And I would hope that that's a reciprocated feeling. But it's crazy. A lot of them commit suicide. They don't know what to do with it. They get divorces. They stop hanging out with the people.
They get killed.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm reading this article, and there was a guy who won the lottery in Chicago and then died of like cyanide poisoning like a day later.
Did you read the one about the one that got buried in the cement? I mean,
no, I didn't.
Who wants to win the lottery?
Like real mob stuff, where like you think you're out, but it's amazing how I just think it's a really cool conversation that life is not all about money, and for those who don't grow up around it or do grow up around it and then find life-changing money, it's still so important to have the people that you care about around you, to stay grounded in what is important to you, and don't allow that to be the driver. I think that's what we see in those statistics. Jake would get a salary to be my driver, trainer. Yeah. Listen, this is like, you can call me Turtle, dude. I'll wear I'll wear a hat. I'm good with all of that. But super cool. Let's get to wake up our motivational music first, and then we'll get into the content.
Look at them yo-yos. That's the way you do it. Play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Now that ain't working. That's the way you do it. Let me tell you, damn guys ain't dumb. Maybe get a blister on your little finger. Maybe get a blister on your thumb. We got to install microwave ovens, custom kitchen delivery. that's his own hair. The little faggot got his own jet airplane. The little faggot, he's a millionaire. We got the install microwave oven, custom kitchen deliveries. We got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs.
Great song.
Which
I
it's
know
so
we're
fun.
dancing behind the scenes.
I am proud of my music knowledge, and that obviously
Yes.
comes from my father and my brother most of the time. But it is cool to have that relation with the older generation. I'll say, that there is a true appreciation for the artistry, for the ability. And I'll tell you, my generation is falling far behind. Look, I don't know where people stand on Taylor Swift, but I think she's uber talented and amazing ability, but I don't know that I'm spending $1,000 to go see her. So I'll get roasted for that, I'm sure. But yeah, no, there's Shay, right? Shay, are you gonna take your daughter to Taylor Swift? Is that like
Of course
No
he
shot.
no shot?
is. No, but Danielle is.
And Danielle
They'll
will
be dressed
absolutely.
alike.
No shot. She likes her money, and that's too much money.
There you go. Right. There you go. But anyway, we have some great content today. We're going to talk about the 5 people you need in your life to succeed. And the article starts off by talking about 2 different kinds of people. There are thieves and there are allies. And I think we talk about it all the time. The thieves are the ones that take stuff away from you, drain you, the energy vampires, whatever name you want to give them. I think we're all aware. Yes, Ed, I do love my 80s music, but we're all aware of those people in your life that are constantly draining, constantly taking away from you, do nothing for you. Where on the other side, the flip side, are the allies that are encouraging you, supporting you, pushing you to be better. So Lori, talk a little bit about how you create boundaries to get the negative people out of your life, or how you focus on keeping the good ones around you.
So quite honestly, I'm not sure this was something that I was always so good at.
Mhm.
I think as I've matured, I'll put it that way, as I've gotten older, I think you become so much clearer about those boundaries. And so, but I think now today's generation, hopefully they're starting a little bit younger, but listen, it's not easy. I always want to see the best in people. So sometimes I always want to give them more chances, right? Kind of thing to prove to me that they're not who I think they might be or who they've shown me they are. But I think today there are times when I will cut people out of my life because it just is toxic or just negative. But there's also times where I will keep those people close.
Right.
So I think you have to figure out, right? Especially in work, sometimes cutting someone out totally may not be what's best for you and your career, or may not be best for your organization.
Right. And we had this conversation last night about understanding the consequences that your decisions have for cutting people out, what that then means for. But I think it goes for your personal life too. And you talked about it. It gets easier with age. You become more self-aware as you get older, or you hopefully do. You start to be in tune what fulfills you, what makes you happy, the people that you want. And so for me, at least, the more I understood myself, the easier it was to cut people out or to drift away. And I think cut people out is actually a terrible term because it makes the other person feel terrible. I don't know that it even makes yourself feel good. Like, I don't want to be the cutter, and we're going to talk about 5 different allies, but I don't want to be the cutter. I want to express that message in a way that, like, hey, look, we're growing in different directions, and that's okay. We don't serve each other any purpose. I love you. I wish you the best. And that doesn't take away from the relationship we might have had before, or it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't mean that we need to be enemies in the workforce or talk shit about each other or stab each other in the back. But like, being able to have those grown-up dialogues that, like, hey, look, we don't mesh, and that's okay. And once you realize you're not supposed to be friends with everybody, I think the ones that are friends with everybody freak me out, and I would think that they don't know who they are, in my personal opinion. But it's interesting that you're aware enough that you can't cut everybody out.
And I think there's different reasons you cut people out, right? I mean, as you said, sometimes you just grow apart and you're on different paths in life. Doesn't mean you wish anybody harm, but you just don't hang out together anymore, right? For whatever those reasons are. And then there's really the bad toxic people who you just don't trust or respect or like. And the older I get, the less I want to spend time around people I don't like or trust. I also think on the flip side, you become much more aware, at least for me, I became much more aware of being deliberate about the people I did want to be with. Who were those allies? What was important to me, right? Who was in my crew, right, as I call it. So I think just as you become more aware of who you don't want in your life, you certainly become more aware of who you do want in your life.
And I think, like you said, you make an effort to be with those people. Once you recognize them, you recognize how they make you feel. And I know Stutz talks about it in his hierarchy of life and what you're supposed to do, but taking that initiative to get around those people and not worrying about, are they going to ask you to hang out? Like, find the people you like and then make an initiative. Be like, hey, I like hanging out with you and want to hang out with you more. And that goes for every walk of life, but I do want to get into the allies. We're already at 8:14. Time flies when we're having fun on this huddle. But I want to talk about the different types of allies. I know that you probably have an example of all of these in your life, because I'm sure you've built an amazing board of directors for yourself, and for your life. But these are the 5 allies, and they actually compare it to a basketball team. Not everybody needs to be the same. They all need to play a role, but you have the facilitator, you have the playmaker, and we'll go into each of them. The encourager, the bruiser, and the rock. So Lori, can you start with the facilitator, what a facilitator is if you have it in front of you, and talk about why those are important in your life or in somebody's life?
So the facilitator sees the big picture and supports you in managing, right, the information. He's good at knowing when you can speed things up or slow things down.
Or she.
He or she. I did catch that, by the way, that this article was all about. In short, he or she can see things that you can't. It's interesting because here they put people in different categories, but I think at the end of the day, right, there are mentors, there are connectors, there are, right, the ones who kick your ass, right, and keep you from getting too full of yourself or keep you accountable or all of those things. And then there's the ones who, when things are tough, right, put their arms around you and say it's going to be okay. So I think, it's interesting. I think the categories they put them in. And yeah, I think, like I said before, that crew, having each of those different kinds of people is so important and balances things out for you.
And knowing that not everybody has to play every role for you, and knowing that like people do serve a purpose, vice versa, and know that in certain, organizations or environments, that's where that person thrives. That's person where you're going to develop that relationship. I do have a question for you. Which one are you in this list, or which one would you consider yourself?
I would probably say, it's hard to say one, I think, because it really depends on what my friends or family need, right? Sometimes they need me to kick them in the butt and say, hey, you said you were going to do this. You haven't done it, right? And hold them accountable. There are other times when they just need me to put my arm around them, right? And tell them it's going to be okay and encourage them. I think I'm a little bit of each when I need to be. I can't really pick one.
That's fair. And which one do you believe makes the best leader? Or what should a leader look like or encompass? Is there one that's better? Is there one that's wrong in your expertise?
No, I think even as I just said, as a friend, as a daughter, as a partner, whatever, I think it's the same thing with the leader. You need to be able to know when to be each of those things. And sometimes there might be one that you really aren't good at being, right? And so you might not be that person in the crew that the person goes to or on the team. I think you've got to know your people or your friends or your family and know what they need at the time and be a little bit of everything hopefully, right, that you can be for them. So I definitely think a leader needs to be a little bit of all of those.
Yeah, and I think that's where being self-aware comes back into play, of like knowing kind of where you're struggling or where you lack or where you're not as good. Like I know I struggle with the facilitator. Like I'm much more of a playmaker. I prefer it. And even if you go back to basketball, I prefer, like, I don't like indecision. Like, let's make a decision. Let's do it. Let's execute at a very high level where, I try probably not as successful being the rock where I'm like, like I'm this support system where I'm much more probably the bruiser, like if you come to me, I'm not going to be this. Yes, I'm going to support you, but I'm going to be really honest with you, consistently. And I know that that's not always the right way to go about things, especially as we add more team members and I start to see myself in different environments. You start to see really where you struggle and the little things that you do that affect other people. And sometimes you put yourselves in these other roles, and it's kind of a fun exercise to see like, well, I know what'll happen if I act my normal self, but if I do something else, I'll try it, like I'm going to try it. And you watch the different outcomes that you get from other people, from their work. And it's really a fulfilling exercise in order to keep trying to do those things and keep progressing.
I also think that if you care about people, right, the people that are in your life, whether it's your team, your family, your friends, I think we naturally go towards one or two of those things, right? If you told me naturally where would I go, it would be the bruiser, right? It would be holding you accountable because that's just right. I'm a bottom line kind of person. And I believe in being authentic and honest and telling you like it is. And, and then I'll be there for you. I have to work at being, so that comes naturally to me, right? I have to work sometimes at remembering that this is not the right time to be the bruiser for this friend or this family member. This is the time just to put my arms around them and say, it's going to be okay. And not offer them ideas or tell them to see the forest through the trees or to hold them accountable. It's harder for me to be those other things. So I'm very conscious of that. And I work on that a lot.
Right.
So I think that's the thing, understanding yourself, what comes more naturally, right? But then also making sure that you can adjust to the natural, tendency for you. And then also incorporate some of those others.
Which is, I think, crazy for us to see just the lack of leadership training that goes on in organizations and in the world and in development of humans where like they don't even know that there are different options of ways to be. They learn from either their leader that they came up with or they watched, some movie that had a leader and it's this powerful guy or it's this or it's that. And they don't realize that you have to be different people at different times and to different individuals under them. I think that's the most surprising thing is they go, well, I have to be different to that person. Well, yeah, like you have to communicate in a very different way. And I know Mark loves to use this analogy, but like Tom Brady was the best at it. Tom Brady would talk to the media like a one way, talk to his coaches a different way, talk to the owners a different way, talk to his players a different way, and was able to shape his message in a way that it got received. And I think that's the most important things as leaders is it's your job to develop a relationship. It's your job to get buy-in, and it's your job to preach the message in a way that they understand, consume, and want to do it. And so having the ability, having these tools in your toolbox to operate that way is really important. It doesn't just happen overnight.
And I think having your group, right, having the people in your life that fulfill all these different roles. I mean, there are friends in my life that if I really want to be held accountable and I really want somebody to kick my ass, I know exactly who I'm going to, right? But if I want somebody just to put their arm around me or support me or encourage me or whatever, it might be somebody else. Doesn't mean that the other one can't. But you do know in your life, right? People know that more than likely my tendency is going to be to hold you accountable, right? And to kind of say, well, let's think about that, right? Whereas, somebody else they might go to will be that more empathetic person. And, so I think you have to know each other, whichever group it is in your organization or at home. You have to understand who you are, what you need and then also what they each need. And then, by the way, just because I know you and I know you could handle me being the bruiser, there are going to be times when that's still not the right thing
Right.
to offer you. So it's not only knowing, right, at that person in general,
Right.
but at that given moment, understanding what that person needs most.
Which is really hard for like the person that the person's coming to, because it's like you have to remove yourself from it and be like, yo, this isn't about me anymore, you know, or how I would respond or how I would even want to get talked to. You know, as I've gotten older, I've realized I'm like, oh, I have to shape the message, not because I have to see it from a different lens. I have to see from where they're coming from, how they were raised, but it all goes back to knowing the person, asking the questions, developing the relationship in order to shape the message that you give to them. Lori, as always, great to share the show with you. The Nudelberg boys, the older Nudelberg boys, will be back tomorrow with Mr. Dykes, dropping knowledge. Lori, it's been a great week. I will talk to our creative people, see if we can get you on the graphic. But all of you guys have a great Thursday. If you love our content, please sign up for our newsletter, join our community. It's growing. We have amazing new offers, amazing new tools to give you guys to keep you getting 1% better. And as always, let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down to business.